Okay, today we are going to continue talking about the equation of a circle, but we're also going to bring in completing the square with circles, which is why we learned how to do that a couple of days ago. Okay, now to begin, we're just going to review from yesterday. Does anybody remember the equation of a circle in standard form? Parentheses.
HKY square.
No, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Now, if you look at your h value and your k value, you know the center of the circle. If you look at your ending value, the constant, you can find the radius from that. Okay, so let's try that. For this particular circle, what is the center? Okay, now, the reason it's a negative 3 is because think about it. If the formula is x minus, the only way they would have gotten this positive is to plug in a negative 3 for h. And then over here, the formula is y minus, so if it's y minus 5, they just plugged in a positive 5. Now, what about the radius? It's 4. Because to find the radius, you take the r and square it. So to go backwards, couldn't we just square root 16 to get 4? Okay, so now let's look at this one. What is the center for this one? Very good. 2 and 0. Positive 2, and then look, there's nothing added or subtracted from the y squared, so that means the k value was 0.
5 is the radius.
And the radius is 5. Very good.
Is there such thing as plus or minus?
No. Okay, now look at this last one. Does this look like something we can pull the center and the radius from?
Backwards.
Right. We're going to have to use completing the square, and we're going to change it from this form to this form. Okay, because once we get it in this form, identifying the center and the radius is easy. But we have to get it to this form. Now, the first two problems we worked today, okay, this one and this one, they just rewrote them down here. They are in standard form, so it's easy to find their center and their radius. This last one, though, is general form. So, we can't identify the center and the radius right away. Whenever we're working with circles that are in general form, we're going to have to complete the square to find the center and the radius. Okay, so let's get started. The first step is to move the constant, which yes is c.
Wait, didn't we do this already?
Maybe in geometry a little.
No. We're talking about this.
Yeah, we did completing the square, but we did it with quadratics. Move the constant to the other side. Okay, so let's try that. What is the constant? Okay, so I would have to subtract it to cancel it over here, and then I would subtract it over there, and it would equal negative 6. Now, on the other side, or actually, and then they want you to group all terms together by their variable. So, like, see how it's x squared, then y squared, then 6x, and 2y? They want you to group it by their variable. So first write x squared minus 6x so that the x's are all together. And then you're going to write y squared plus 2y so that the y's are all together. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, now we're going to complete the square for both the x and the y by taking half the linear coefficient and squaring it. Okay, well, over here, which one is the linear coefficient, x squared or negative 6x? Negative 6x, because linear means it's raised to the first power. So like this would be the linear. If you take half of that, you get negative 3, and if you square it, you get, isn't that basically that little formula we learned? B over 2 squared. You take your b, which is the coefficient of the linear term, you divide it by 2, which is halving it, and then you square it. Okay, but we're going to do that for both the x and the y. Okay, well, but look, just like completing the square, our next step is the blanks. So we're going to have a blank for the x's, and we're going to have a blank for the y's. Now, since we added 2 blanks on the left side, you're also going to add 2 on the right side. Alright, so now we're going to fill in the blanks by taking the linear term, halving it, and squaring it, which is this. So what is the b for the x's? Well, negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, squared is positive 9. Well, since you're adding a positive 9 over here, you also add it over there. Okay, what is the b value for the y's? 2, but when you divide it by 2, you get 1, and when you square it, you get 1, and then add 1 over here. Okay, so same process as completing the square. Now, what can we go ahead and do with x squared minus 6x plus 9? Factor it. Okay, now what hint did I give you about these factors? They're going to be the exact same thing. So we know we got to have an x times x to get the x squared, and now we're looking for two numbers that do what?
Negative 3.
What do they do? What do they have to do?
They add negative 6 and multiply and get positive 9.
Right, add up to negative 6, multiply to 9, so what numbers do that?
Negative 3.
Negative 3 and negative 3. Now we're going to do that same process with the trinomial with y's. So we're looking for two numbers that add up to 2 and multiply to 1. What numbers do that? 1 and 1. And now on the right side, what is negative 6 plus 9 plus 1? 4. Very good.
Square everything.
Right. Instead of writing it twice, we can write it as a binomial squared. Same thing over here with the y's. And now look, haven't we changed it from general form to standard form? You don't have to go any further. This is what we want. We want it in standard form so that we can identify the center and the radius. What's the center? 3 and negative 1. Because remember, the minus was already there. So that means a positive 3 is your h. But since that minus is gone, it must have been a minus a negative 1. And what's the radius? 2. Very good. Okay, once you've copied that, turn to the next page. Okay, on this next page, your example may have been cut off on some of the packets that got cut off, so I'm just going to rewrite it in case you can't see yours. X squared plus y squared minus 2x minus 2y minus 2 equals 0. Okay, currently we have an equation of a circle in what form? General. Good. And we want it in what kind of form? Standard. Okay, what's the first step?
Move the c to the equal sign.
Move the constant to the other side. What is the constant?
2.
So how do we move it?
Negative 2 on both sides.
Add 2 on both sides.
Add 2.
Okay? So now I know this side becomes 2. What can I go and do on the left side? Group them. So it'll be x squared minus 2x. And then couldn't I go ahead and put in the blanks?
Yes.
Plus blank plus y squared minus 2y plus blank, and then I need to also add 2 blanks over here. Okay, now what is the formula that helps you fill the blanks? Right, the linear term half squared. What is, for the x's, what is the b? The negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1, squared is positive 1. So if I add it over here, I have to add it over here. What is the b for the y's? Same thing, right? So you're going to end up with another 1 and 1. So now, on the right side, what does it become? 4. On the left side, I'm ready to factor. Okay, and look, they're identical. So once I factored 1, I know the other one. We're looking for two numbers to add up to negative 2, multiply to positive 1. Right, x minus 1, x minus 1. So over here, it's the exact same thing except for y's. And now what can I do?
Square.
Write it as a binomial squared. So x minus 1 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 4. Now do we have it in standard form?
Yes, plus 1 plus 1.
Okay, so our center is 1, 1, and our radius is 2. Good.
Well, the radius always be positive.
Yes. Just think about it. The radius is the distance from the center to the side, so you can never have a negative distance. Okay, now I'm going to leave this up here so you can reference it, but I want you to try this next one by yourself. All right. X squared plus y squared plus 2x minus 4y minus 12 equals 0. We're trying to change it from general form to standard form, so what do I do first? Add the 12. Okay, and now on the left side, I need to
So you're going
group it. And while I'm on this step, I could also add my blanks. There's no reason to take up more lines than are necessary. You just got to be careful and make sure you check everything. Let's see, x squared plus 2x, that covers those two, plus a blank, plus y squared minus 4y plus a blank, and then equals positive 12 plus 2 more blanks. Okay, now, what formula helps us fill in the blank? Correct, b over 2 squared. What is the b for the x? 2. When you half it, you get 1, and when you square it, you get 1. Okay, what about the b for the y's? Divided by 2, squared, positive 4. So over here, we'll add the 1 and the 4. Now on this side, what can I do? Okay, now let's go ahead and skip another step, okay, because we're getting good at this. Instead of writing it twice,
Just write it once.
just write it once,
Put a square in it.
because we know they're going to be identical.
That's right.
Okay, and then what did that add up to be?
16,
17.
17.
Okay, now over here we're looking for two numbers that multiply to 1 and add to 2.
1.
Positive 1, right. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. Over here, add up to negative 4 and multiply to positive 4. Right. So now we're done. We have it in standard form, so we are ready to identify the center and the radius. What is the center?
Negative 1 and 2.
Negative 1, positive 2. Because think about it, the formula is x minus h. So if you end up with a plus, that means it was a negative 1 that turned that minus into a positive. Okay? Now what's the radius? Square root of 17, or you could go ahead and simplify that to a decimal. 4 point what? 1, 2? Okay. Okay, y'all go ahead and try the next one. Alright, we're trying to change it from general form to standard form so that we're able to find the center and the radius. What do we do first?
Move the 4 to the equal sign.
How do we move it? Subtract it. Good. Okay, so now on the left side, we need to go ahead and do what? Group and
Put our statement.
right. Okay, now when I get ready to fill in the blanks, what formula do I need to use?
B over 2
squared.
squared.
Right. Okay, for the x's, what's the b?
Negative 6.
Divided by 2?
3.
Negative 3 squared.
9.
Right, so then I add 9 over here as well. For the y's, what's the b?
4.
Divided by 2?
2.
Squared.
4.
Right, so then I add it over here. Now on the left, I can do what?
Factor.
Factor, but since we know they're going to be identical, we can go ahead and write it as a binomial squared.
Square in the corner.
So, what two numbers multiply to positive 9 but add up to negative 6? Right, so x minus 3. Okay, what about the y's? Multiply to 4, add to 4.
2.
Positive 2. What does the right side become?
17. Oh.
No, 9.
9. The negative 4 and 4 cancel each other out, leaving just the 9. So, is this done?
No.
No.
Why? That's x minus h squared.
You gotta square it.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it's in standard form.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and so now we look for the center, which is,
3 and negative 2.
and the radius is,
3.
very good.
Oh,
Yep, 3, because square root of 9 is 3. So turn to the next page. Those 4 problems are your assignment today. Okay, 1 through 4 on the next page.